while we're looking for the slides, I would like to first thank the SFRP for inviting WHO not only to participate in this workshop, but also to include the topic of non-ionizing radiation. This is the first time. And we have seen recently an interest, reinvigoration of the topic of non-ionizing radiation within the ERPA societies. And we are very happy about this. Yes. Okay, so you are quite familiar with WHO's work on ionizing radiation, whether it's about the effects from natural sources like radon, or the work that we do in the medical area, as well as with respect to emergency preparedness and response. But you may be a little less familiar with what we do. Non. Ah, je vais faire avec ça. Okay. With what we do with respect to the electromagnetic field spectrum and the optical radiation part of the spectrum, where we have different projects in these areas. So just to remind you the definition of non-ionizing radiation, you're aware that it consists of electromagnetic fields, starting with static fields, 0 Hertz, all the way up to 300 gigahertz, plus the optical radiation spectrum. But not only this, it also includes in the definition the acoustic spectrum, and that is infrasound and ultrasound. We don't talk about sound because this is a topic that is well discussed and researched by other bodies, but we look also at infrasound and ultrasound. So in the context of, for example, the medical sector, we of course would include ultrasound using in medicine. Now, what do we know? What are the mechanisms of interactions? Mostly what we know relate to acute effects along the spectrum with different types of interactions, and these very much form the basis of the exposure limits that we have to date. There are a number of questions regarding long-term effects, mostly carcinogenic effects, with well-established data for the UV part of the spectrum, with a classification as UV being a carcinogen for humans, mostly skin cancer and eye cancer. For low frequencies and radio frequency fields, we have a classification by IARC, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, as possibly carcinogenic for each of this part of the spectrum. For ELF, low frequency fields, the association, weak association with childhood leukemia, and in the RF part of the spectrum, glioma of the head, and the use of mobile phones. So this is the basis, these acute effects are the basis of the limits that we have, or reference levels, for the electromagnetic field spectrum. So unlike the ionizing radiation spectrum, where you have dose-response relationship that is considered as an LNT, here we have threshold type effects. But this is even more challenging and different when we talk about UV radiation, because in this case, if you have too low a dose, you may get effects such as lack of vitamin D and rickets. If you have too high a dose, of course, you will have risk of skin cancer or eye cancer. So there's an optimization that is very individual dependent, depending on your skin type, on your age, and so on. And the same would apply for the visible part of the spectrum and infrared as well. So just to remind you, and that you know very well, that in the ionizing radiation landscape, ANSCI is usually the body that looks at the scientific evidence. ICRP will provide a system of radiation protection, and then we have standards that are established by a number of international organizations, and hopefully many member states go and develop their own regulations based on this. However, in the non-ionizing part of the spectrum, it's WHO usually that does the scientific analysis. ICNIRP and other bodies sets limits, but ICNIRP is really the body, ICNIRP being the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, sets the system of radiation protection in that part of the spectrum, and there is at present no standards developed by international agencies, and so we have a very wide range of regulation around the world. And so we were asked by a country, one of our member states, to see if we could develop some basic safety standards for non-ionizing radiation. So instead of reinventing the wheel, we started by looking at the ionizing radiation system, whereby, of course, as you well know, you have 3 exposure situations, 3 categories of exposures, and 3 principles. Now, can this be used for non-ionizing radiation protection? For the exposure situation, it's not exactly a perfect fit. For the categories of exposure, is definitely something we can use in terms of public, occupational, and medical or patients. And in terms of principle, this is what we want to mention briefly today with you, is the fact that so far we have very much used limitation in the non-ionizing radiation system, but we are very interested in discussing further the idea of optimization. And what does it mean, and does it work at all, when you have a threshold type response? So what we would like to do in the rest of this presentation is I will give the floor to my colleague Erik van Wongen from the Health Council of the Netherlands, who will be talking to us about low-frequency magnetic fields and childhood leukemia. And I have to say in parentheses that he is also the chair of ICNIRP. So it is with the head of the Health Council that he will talk, but you can ask him some questions if you wish about, with his ICNIRP hat, because they are the ones who are developing or revising their philosophy with respect to protection for non-ionizing radiation protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily.